Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's edition of Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up, where we look at everything to do with the London market, technology, change, innovation. This week we're going to focus on Aspen and the turnaround that they've done there, which we find pretty fascinating. Talk a little bit about reinsurance and the market and WTW, and then a bit about TINtech, I think, to finish off. Okay, so let's start. So you found this article, Ben, about the turnaround at Aspen. Do you want to just give us the headlines and we can just talk about some of the interesting...
Yes. Hi, everybody. It's this article is in Insurance Journal, and actually it's quite unusual, I think, to find such a comprehensive article with all of this kind of candour that you get from Mark Cloutier, who's the chief executive, who's turned the business around after what was quite a tough time for Aspen. And there's a number of factors, I think, that he names or lists out as being the factors that drove this success, or now relative success compared with before. And I think they're really interesting because they're really much more about people. There's not even a mention of technology in here, so we can't get onto AI, thank God. And but no, it is very much, and I think we'll talk a bit about WTW's re-business as to whether that's a goer or not a goer, which has some similar factors, I think. So I think this whole thing, these two articles and these 2 points, I think, about the insurance business going forward are quite fundamental, really. Yeah. So if I just kind of go through a few of these, so let's start with the first. Really, he said it's all about people. That's the key thing. He said it's about motivating people. He said when he got to Aspen, it was low morale, but there were good people. And he identified a mixed team, I think, of new hires and the good people in the business, and put those into positions of influence and sort of managerial positions, I guess, mostly. He started off, as I think others who've been successful, like Stephen Cannon, have said, with values. Getting those right was key. So he talks about an away day, and that was setting out the stall for the people in the business. Yeah. Not surprisingly, they had to do something around the finances because it was losing a lot of money, and so they worked on the portfolio. In a way, there's nothing much so surprising here, I think, except that, they reduced volatility, they pulled out 17 lines, they did do a transfer of lost portfolio to Enstar, about 3.1 billion, and, they lost $1 billion of premium through the process of closing down lines. But when you read the article, you see that what he also did, which I think is really important, and we see this in our data, which is where they were pulling out of lines, they talked to those brokers where they had relationships and explained what was happening. And I think, this is an article, obviously he's going to say this, but it seems like they kept them on board and didn't kind of just pull out, as many businesses just do, and leave the brokers high and dry. And I think you said the word earlier on, it's a kind of more professional approach to business than a kind of trading approach, which sometimes just is, listen, we're pulling out, it's kind of your fault, not our fault, and the whole thing is badly managed. So that's good, and I think the business has returned to profit in 21 and 22, about a 95% loss ratio. Now on the financial side, the article does point out, of course, that it's been a pretty hard market and rates have helped the business and investment returns, we know. So, but that's not to take anything away, I think, from what they've achieved. The next part really is about of Cloutier's sort of discourse on what made success happen was really around people and giving the business a purpose, a point. And he makes the point, you can't just be a business that's about profits anymore. You have to have some reason for people to want to work for you and for your external proposition, I think. So he's talked about ESG, he's talked about D&I, he's talked about making it a sustainable business where it fits into society, that isn't just about profits, and a business that young talent would want to work for. And this is a point that has been made before. it's not necessarily, I mean, we do have some data on this. I mean, it's not necessarily the top of the pile for young people. It's still pay and rations. That is still really important. But I think he's got a point that actually people who work for business do want something a bit more than just the money.
Yeah.
Because I think it says something about the future success of the business and whether it's a nice place to work or a good place to work. So the culture's really important. He's saying it's obviously important in terms of the success as well, which is a kind of byproduct of that. I think they also do something which is good around talking about walking the walk on this, not just saying we do this stuff. Yeah. He said they've invested in a micro insurance business in the US, in New York, I think it is. And they've also changed their recruitment strategy away from a kind of Oxbridge-based red brick type of approach into looking at inner city candidates and candidates from all over the kind of place, rather than just kind of sticking to the rather narrow recruitment approach that many have had in the past. So again, they're not new, but when you bring these all together, you realise just how much emphasis they've put on the softer aspects of the business.
Yeah.
The professionalisation of it, I think, which is a good point that you made, and I think it's shown that we've got now businesses that are developing, even if they've had a hard time, you can save them through this. It isn't about some magical trading secret sauce anymore. It's about just running a quality operation.
Yeah. And what I liked about the article, and you mentioned it there, is kind of this move away from just being profitable to creating value, both for external clients, but also internally to engage staff in the workforce. Because as we talked about before, it isn't just about paying rations. People work for organisations, they work for people, and they work for a purpose. And if you don't have that, then the rest of it just falls away. It's very difficult just to be in that kind of trading environment and get up every day and come with new ideas. I think one of the 6 values that they put down there was to innovate. Now you can't do that if all you're going for is profit.
No.
You need space to...
And not if you've got low morale.
Yeah, indeed. So I think that's right. And, we run small businesses, and we're very focused on driving value in our organisations, in the relationships we build, because that's how you then turn a profit later on. It's not a short-term ambition. You're looking for a long-term win. So I thought that was really good. And so I've just been to a breakfast briefing where we were talking about underwriting and the London market and the use of data around that. And I think that is one of the things, to your point about skills and kind of capabilities. You've got a great bunch of people within an organisation, but you've got to be able to enable them to do their jobs. And I think one of the things that we talked about at the breakfast this morning was really understanding what underwriters do on a day-to-day basis, and then supporting them in those roles. You're not trying to replace them through technology or AI or anything like that. I've got to get it in. What you're trying to do is support them through that. And actually, we didn't talk about hardly anything about technology, even though it was a kind of data and tech thing this morning. So it's really interesting, I think, how organisations are now thinking about their workforce, thinking about underwriters, and how do we create an environment, give them the technology, give them the data that allows them to firstly make the right call, and then hopefully grow their business through innovation.
I mean, I'm just thinking it's almost analogous to sport, isn't it, in a way, which is, it's kind of more talk in sport now is about your mental health and and there is the technical stuff, obviously, and the training and the programs and the science behind it. But that is kind of like a hygiene factor. But the extra alpha, if you like, for successful sports people is definitely now all around that mindset, isn't it, and the approach that they take. And I guess we knew that, but I think it's more now in business and in the insurance market that we deal with, where in the past it was, a lot of it was about your trading instincts and all that sort of thing. But it's a different world now. It's more about the team and the whole business, because it's beyond underwriting. There's so many other people in other jobs and other roles, and they're all evolving.
Yeah. That was interesting, actually, because that reminded me of, so I went to a talk by Sir Clive Woodward, who won the World Cup for rugby. I'm not a massive rugby fan, so forgive me if I get all this wrong. But essentially, he said the way that they were able to compete and win in that competition is through the use of data. So they were one of the first national teams to have data on all their competitors and their own players, so that they could firstly know what they were going to be up against in a way that hadn't been done before, but then they could run scenarios and say, okay, what happens if we are 6 points, with 10 minutes to go, and we've got a throw in or whatever it is, and he just point to someone and say, what do we do? And the whole team knew what they do, and that's kind of what we're talking about, isn't it? Kind of, it's everybody knows their jobs, everybody knows what the scenario is, they have a North Star, and you can really...
Yeah, it's right. And actually, the other thing that Cloutier says in this article is about, for example, the E&S surplus lines market in the US is getting huge, and everybody's very excited about it, and he makes a few jokes about, people getting too excited about things. But it seems to me that he's also saying when your culture, your instincts get better when you create these cultures, because you can make better decisions as a basis of that. You don't get carried along, swept up with the crowd, as it were. And again, so I think he's onto something, and hopefully Aspen will keep on keeping on, being successful.
Good, excellent. Good article, that, Ben. Thank you for that. Right, let's move on and talk about reinsurance, and specifically about Willis. Again, another article. The Insider, was this one? Insider
in full. It's a good article again. It's something that has been talked about a lot in the market as to whether WTW will, following its sale of its reinsurance business, now get back into reinsurance effectively as a start-up. Or a re-up, as I call it.
Re-up.
Yeah, which is a drug solution, so that's not very good, but it's the only thing I can think of. WTW re-up.
Re-up.
It was in the Wire. They used that phrase. So anyway, the rumours have been around, and this is played out in the article, that people are being recruited into this business and all that. So anyway, that was all apparently is dissolved, and so it's maybe not happening. The article, though, lays out 5 reasons for why they think this is not a great idea or a bad plan for WTW, and why I think they're really saying that WTW probably won't do it.
Right.
So, again, we're into lists of reasons again.
Yep.
So I'll start my list, see if I can remember it from my notes. So the first really is the cash flow issue. So they reckon it's 150 million to do this right in terms of people and getting it all set up. But it's a long, slow payback, maybe 5 years. So a lot of cash has to be put into this to set it up. Second reason is, and this is why it's really interesting, we've pulled out these two pieces today, because again, it's back to people and how important people are to the success. So the article is saying that they're just, the talent in the market, they won't probably go to a startup now, because there are some startups, which we'll talk about in a second. But why would they go to a completely new business when they can be in a business that's already being successful and so on? So they don't think people will go to this startup, not the good people, not the really good people.
Yeah. The
third reason is that since WTW sold its reinsurance business, there have been challengers who've come into the market, including of course, Gallagher Re, where the business was sold to, but Lockton Re, Tiger Risk, so really key, very senior reinsurance brokers like Tim Gardner and Tim Ronda. They're all called Tim, obviously, for some reason. That may be the common success factor as well that we've missed. But they're saying that these people are not, they're already in these challenges. They're obviously enjoying their jobs, and had a good run last few years. Yeah. But also there's a demographic challenge, which most of these people in this market are now in their mid-50s or older, and they're going to retire. And the important point as well is that there's a missing generation below them. And we would say that's exactly right, because we've seen that in our data and we've reported that. So there is definitely this hole that's coming. So talent-wise, there's an issue. And linked to that, which again is a good point, is that because business is still quite old-fashioned and focused around almost individuals who trade in this market and have these big relationships, and earn a lot of money, I think, as well by doing through these relationships. But it has precluded really having a lot of operational leaders or management in broader terms. So there aren't those people to come along and set up a new there aren't those people. There are, even if you could get the traders, you haven't got the operational leaders.
Yeah.
So that's another issue, and it says something about the industry that we perhaps need more of these managers as well as just salespeople, and that needs to shift. Then there's the issue of the market. It's been great for reinsurance and other parts of insurance, but those tailwinds are lessening. Cedents have been happy to feed some of these new challenger brands because too much is concentrated in the big three, but that's already happened. Those challengers have done that, so now they're going to have to kind of consolidate and work through a slightly tougher market.
Yeah.
And then the final point is there's nothing to buy. So there are no real obvious candidates to sell. I've been talking to some of these challenger reinsurers this week. It's very interesting. They are very ambitious. They want to grow. They see that they could be differentiated from the big three, the established players. So it's very competitive, but it's organic competition. So they're already established and they're doing okay. But for a WTW to come in now would have to be organic growth. So it really is an absolutely flat startup. So bottom line, I think the die looks like it's cast in reinsurance broking for a while, according to this article, and I guess it makes a good point, a case for it. And I was just musing on the fact that this is maybe true of the whole market. It's not just reinsurance. A lot of these factors play into the rest of the insurance market.
Yeah.
There are demographic issues. There are, there's a turnover of the senior people now in the market. Tailwinds, they've lessened too, softening market. So that we've got probably now a period where it's going to be much tougher. So back to Mark Cloutier's point about Aspen is you're going to really rely on your people, innovation, your proposition, your service, which we've talked about.
Yeah.
All of those things are going to now be so key to success. They're going to be very much, if you're not ready for it, then you'll suffer.
So, and I agree with all that, and it's a good argument. I think one thing that I might just push back slightly on is maybe the operational talent piece, because I think people do get quite excited about a kind of, if you're given a green field, especially in the IT landscape, because I think what holds back some of those operational leaders within established organisations is kind of the legacy technology and thinking, and quite often ideas take a long time to go through the process. It takes years for stuff to get off the ground. So if they can move, if they're that way inclined and they can move at a speed, I think that might be in their favour to attract some of that talent.
Sure.
But I'll take all those points.
But you're right. It is presented in a kind of current paradigm, if you like, which is. It doesn't take account, as you say, of a different innovative model or something that's new, technologically or otherwise. So there's maybe ways of doing this, because you also implicit, I think, in this article is that part of the problem for everybody is the industry is still working in a very traditional way. Yeah. And that's something that I've picked up, I think, in going around some of the reinsurers now, is that it can't be as cosy as it used to be. It's got to professionalise. It's got to be different. So maybe you could do something. I agree. Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting. I was running another event yesterday, and that was made around the table. We kind of take it for granted that we will be here, and the point was made at that event that we have seen industries disrupted and large organisations that are no longer brands anymore have disappeared, and that is not just in the retail space. You can look at the B2B world and see that as well. So I think. The point around competition, I think, is key. If you don't have, and let's go back to the original article about Aspen, if you don't have that clarity of purpose, you don't know where you're competing, you don't know what your USP is, it's very difficult to, if the coziness of the market ends, then there'll be
and reinsurance may be part of what WTW wants to stand for. So. it, has a place, but you could definitely think very differently about it. I'm sure you could. I mean, what's reinsurance? It's moving large sums of money around, really, to support cash flow when there are claims and to back that up. So it is not a complex model. I know some of the maths at the top end are, but it's something that definitely could be potentially disrupted.
Yeah. Interesting. Good. Okay. So quick one this week, isn't it, Ben?
Yes, it's a quick one.
Just a quick one. So I'll end on TINtech. Look at that. God, the fly is printed. It must be really happening. So I'll put a link in the comments below. So yeah, TINtech on the 25th of June. Anyone who wants to come along, that'd be great to see you. Got talking about innovative leaders. Henry Engelhardt, founder and former CEO of Admiral Group.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
That will be good.
Admiral's a really interesting business.
Yeah,
done some great stuff, I think. Yeah.
So I had a number of comments on LinkedIn when I posted about that the other day from people in the London market wanting to kind of find out about that. And his talk, actually, when I spoke to him, is going to be around kind of the building the culture of the organisation. So actually,
how interesting. Yeah. Well, there we are. That's it. We're right.
We're right.
We're following the Engelhardt model.
We're right again. Great. Okay, what are you doing this weekend, Ben?
I'm going to see the house I'm buying, hopefully, touch wood, if this is wood.
Okay.
And we're just checking it out. So it's quite exciting. Yeah, it's good. It's good for us, yeah.
Excellent. I'm going to play...
The one next door to your house.
Oh, yeah. Is it?
Yes. We make it much easier to do shows.
Yeah. We'll call it... It'll be like... what's it?
Morecambe and Wise, or...
The tool guy. What was he called?
Yes.
Tim Allen, over the fence.
Tim Allen over the fence,
yeah. You never saw the other guy. It was really funny. Right, that's shocked me. But what am I doing? I'm playing tennis on Saturday.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's bank holiday weekend, isn't it?
And it's bank holiday, yes, of course.
Yes. So enjoy the bank holiday, everyone. We will be back next week. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend, all. Bye.
Burgess and Bolton's Weekly Wrap-Up.